mdw-ntr. Welcome in peace to mdw-ntr.com. Ren-e Tonica. My name is Tonica. Today, I'm going to recite the offering formula, and you're welcome to recite it along with me. Hotep dinesu, wasir neb jadu, necha'a neb abju, df beret kheru, ti henket ka aped shes menchet, chet nebet neferet wabed anchet nechaim, in kani imaku aku ma kheru. An offering which the king gives Osiris, Lord of Jadu, great God, Lord of Abydos, so that he may give verbal offerings in bread, beer, ox, fowl, alabaster, linen, everything good and pure on which a god lives, for the car of the revered one, the ancestors, justified.
And okay, I want to say ETM Hotep, welcome in peace. Reni Wujau, my name is Wujau.
Ren-e Imiket Aku, my name is Imiket Aku.
All right. And Emiket and I, for this session, we want to talk about the topic of Egyptian orientation and geography. And the reason being is because there's been a few questions that's been asked on Facebook recently, and it's been asked, over the years, but recently some of the questions have popped up. And one of the questions is on the subject of Upper Kemet and Lower Kemet. The questions was asked, why is Upper Kemet in the south and Lower Kemet in the north if the north is up and the south is down? So now that question has been asked, for quite a while, but like I said, it recently comes up every now and then. Now there's an article that was written a few years back, and it's on the website mdw-ntr.com. And so what we can do for tonight, we can walk through the article, then further elaborate. So I'm going to share the article. Sonnet Imiket, if you will. If you can read the article, and then we can kind of walk through it and hopefully clarify some of the confusion.
Dua. Yes, it would definitely be my pleasure to read, and I'll go ahead and read the article. The title is Egyptian Orientation and Geography. Orientation is important and often neglected. Orientation is defined as one's position in relation to geographic true north, to points on the compass, or to a specific place or object. Today, our orientation is based on facing the direction we call north, which is reflected in how we see world maps and the depictions of the various continents. The picture below is a typical representation of the world's continents and thus our orientation. The picture shows the north at the top, south at the bottom, east to the right, and west to the left. Most, if not all, maps today will have the same orientation from street maps, weather maps, climate maps, and globes. The cultural orientation becomes the fixed reference for describing navigation and location. In other words, all descriptions of navigation and location are given in relationship to the fixed cultural orientation of the society. The terminology we use for the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, in ancient times were always related to body parts. In other words, 4 body parts were used to describe the 4 cardinal directions. An example using our modern orientation where we face geographical north, we would assign the words head to north, feet to south, left hand to west, and right hand to east. In Old German, the word for left was equivalent to our current north, and this indicates the people oriented themselves facing towards our east, which is to the rising sun. The same is true for Lesbian people, which in their language the word Kafir means disbeliever and north, northerner. The Lesbians are Muslims, and the north of them were inhabited by non-Muslims whom they call disbelievers. In Hungarian, the word for north is Ezak, which is derived from Ezaka, night, since in the northern hemisphere the sun never shines from the north. The indigenous peoples of Africa are of the first known to use body parts to map out geography and direction. The entire territory for a given society was laid out in relation to the human body. Whatever direction the head was found is the direction of orientation for the people. In ancient Kemet, the head was placed to our south at the source of the Nile, the feet placed to our north at the delta, the left hand placed to our east, and the right hand placed to our west. The head is associated with upper and elevation, whereas the feet are associated with lower and decline. We still do this today by calling the bottom of a hill or mountain the foot of the mountain. The picture below is how the African continent would be oriented to the ancient Egyptians. Note it is in reverse or 180 degrees from how Western societies view the world.
All right, Dua. And so this is the map of the continent of Africa. And to us, this would be in reverse. So we see Madagascar in the upper left as opposed to the lower right on our maps of how we use maps today. But just as Imiket indicated, that, in relation to the question, upper Kemet and lower Kemet, and the question is often asked, why is upper Kemet in the south and why is lower Kemet in the north? So this map explains, the picture diagram explains that. But I'm going to share a different diagram to explain a little further. All right. So now what we have on the screen is this continent of Africa. And what you see are the 4 cardinal points: north, south, east, and west. And we have a figure that is facing towards the north. Now, this is our current orientation. All right. So this is our Western orientation, and we've been conditioned from babies, to adulthood in order to view maps this way. Even if we close our eyes and we picture the continents, Europe is always up top and Africa is beneath it. And we have Canada, United States, Central America, and South America. This is the orientation that we have been conditioned in our society today. All right. So this is what you're looking at. All right. Now, in order to understand the change in orientation, we have to understand that the cardinal points are fixed. So north will always be north, south will always be south, east will always be east, and west is always west. Now, what changes is the individual's orientation, or in the case of the society at large, the entire orientation of the people. So, as I said, in this particular picture, this is the orientation of Western societies, our society here. All right. Now, as Inbiket indicated, in Old German, the word for north, it was the same word for left, their left hand or the left side of the body. So this indicates that the people's orientation was they faced the east, the rising sun. So if they are facing the rising sun, then their left side would be facing north. And so thus the word north meant left. All right. Now that's the historical meaning of the word north when the word was coined. All right. And it seems a bit odd because we don't see and use the word north today to mean left. Our left today would be west. All right. So that's the difference in orientation. All right. But remember, the cardinal points remain fixed. It's the orientation of the people that change. All right. So now we're moving on to ancient Egypt. This picture represents the orientation of the ancient Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians faced the south. The north would be behind them, and the left hand would be in the east, and the right hand or the right side would be in the west. So this is the orientation of the ancient Egyptians. All right. And now, so just to give you the point of view of the ancient Egyptians, because right now what you're looking at is the fixed cardinal points, but we're still looking at it from the point of view of a Western point of view. All right. So if I was a photographer, you can imagine me being on a ladder in front of this figure, and I'm snapping the shot. I'm elevated in the air and I'm snapping this shot at an angle going down. All right. So all I'm going to do is change my position. The figure is going to stay where it is. The cardinal points are going to stay the same, but I'm going to switch my position to be behind this figure on a ladder, angled down to take a shot. And this is what we will be looking at right here. So now the vantage point or the point of view has changed for this particular picture. But notice that the cardinal points are in the same position relative to the vantage point. So I'm going to go back to this picture. If I was here snapping this picture, I'm on a ladder elevated in front of this figure. So I need to go towards the north and stand in the north on a ladder and take a picture facing south. And this is what this picture represents. So this is the point of view of the ancient Egyptians as well as the orientation of the ancient Egyptians. So both point of view and orientation are matching. So hence, this is why the continent looks upside down to us. We would say upside down. All right. But remember, the cardinal points are relative in the same position. All right. Now, to explain it further and to touch on the question of upper Kemet versus lower Kemet and why upper Kemet is in the south and lower Kemet is in the north, we'll look at this picture. Okay, so imagine this figure laying down on the continent of Africa. So here we had, just as Emiket indicated, in ancient times, the cardinal points were indicated by body parts, 4 body parts. So in the case of ancient Egyptians, the head is in the south, the feet are in the north, and the right hand is in the west, the left hand is in the east. And we confirm this in the language, just as in Old German, the word for north is the same word for left. In ancient Egyptian language, the word for right hand is amenet, which is also means west. The word for left hand is iabet, which is also the word for east. The word for head is resi or resut, and it also the word for south. The word for feet, mehet, is also the word for north. So this confirms that this is the orientation of the ancient Egyptians. All right. Now, because the head is the upper part of the body in terms of elevation, and the feet are the lower part of the body in terms of elevation or height, then now it should make sense that when we say lower Kemet, we're talking about lower in elevation, not in direction, but in elevation. And when we say upper Kemet, we're talking about upper as far as elevation. And the reason why is because the flow of the Nile empties out into the Mediterranean Sea. So the Nile Delta, which will be northern Africa, it's at sea level, and which means that it's low. The source of the Nile is in the mountain area, all right? And in the mountain areas is highly elevated. So the Nile flows from a highly elevated area and it goes downstream into a lower terrain and empties out at sea level. So it's actually elevated. The elevation is low, and at the source, the elevation is very high. So hence we have upper Kemet and we have lower Kemet, and it corresponds directly to the upper part of the body, which is resi or resut, south, and the lower part of the body, which is mehet, north. All right. So this is to clarify, the confusion with the question of why is upper Kemet in the south and lower Kemet in the north. Now, also in the language, we also have another word for south that's often translated as south. So I'm going to go back to this picture here with the figure standing up again. Now, another word in the language for south is the word Khent. And sometimes you may hear it as Khenti. Khenti, you may hear it as an epithet of Osiris, Osir, as Khenti Amentiu. And the word Khent literally means something that's protruding forward. And it's a word for the nose on the face or the forehead. And hence the nose sticks out from the face, and the forehead is the most protruding part of the forehead, of the head. That's why we call it the forehead. And so Khenti means the fore, or what's in front. And so this also confirms the orientation of the ancient Egyptians, that what was in front of them is the south, Khent. All right, so that's another word that's translated as the south, Kent. All right, and that should be it. Hopefully that should clarify the question of Upper and Lower Kemet, and also the geography in terms of the elevation, the terrain, whether it's low at sea level or up in the mountains, and also the direct correlation to the body parts. All right. So, Emicat, is there anything else that maybe I forgot to add?
Then that was great. I think you covered all aspects of it and it makes clear sense. So, Dua.
All right. Just one thing I want to reiterate. I'm gonna go back to our orientation today, just to kind of reiterate it. So remember that when you're trying to understand the orientation of a body of people or different civilizations, remember to keep the cardinal points fixed. So don't move the cardinal points, because if you think about it, if you're going to move the cardinal points, let's say the ancient Egyptians' orientation would be 180 degrees from what we're looking at right here, like an about face. If you were to also about face the cardinal points, then essentially nothing's going to change. That means that the continent and everything is going to change with your change. So the cardinal points have to remain fixed, and it's you as an individual or the society as a whole changes the orientation. So people living in the Middle East, they faced the east, the rising sun. So therefore, a lot of their words for north would also correspond to the word for left, as Emiket read in the article. All right. And likewise, for ancient Egypt and other African communities, they faced the south, as we see in this particular picture. All right. So this is the orientation. And you can always confirm the orientation by the actual words in the particular language of the society in terms of their body parts. All right. So hopefully that was clear. And like I said, we just wanted to go over this issue briefly, and hopefully you have learned from it. And if not, feel free to leave comments on the website or join our Facebook group, the Seshew mdw-ntr Facebook group, and chime in on the conversations, offer your research, or ask your questions. All right. So with that, I would say dua, and I would say Shema Hotep, and I'll leave it to Emiket to close it out.
Dua for that, and I would also say Shemim Hotep.